So I have an interesting question for you. What do you expect to bring home from a monetary standpoint when you go to a Union Arena release event? So for those of us who have been going to release events for a long time, the idea that you might be able to actually make money on a release event might sound almost like a foreign concept. So I'll preface this by saying I have not ever gone to a release event, including for Chainsaw Man, a Union Arena release event, to quote unquote make money. I actually assume that going there, I'm probably just going to spend money and hopefully get some products out of it, some cards out of it, which is helpful for building decks and testing and things like that. When I went to the Chainsaw Man release event, clearly Chainsaw Man was going to be a big set. I've talked about that quite a bit. I will admit that from monitoring everything I've been monitoring on the web, Chainsaw Man ended up being bigger than even I thought. It has to be the biggest Union Arena set to date. Perhaps Solo Leveling is bigger, but from an overall player base interest standpoint, not just focus on sales. So it could end up being that when it gets to analyzing sales data, Solo Leveling might beat Chainsaw Man, but from an overall interest, Chainsaw Man has just really been a huge hit from a release event standpoint. And I can say that from what I experienced at my release event, it's a really, really cool set too. So this was a particularly fun release event that I went to. Not just because of like the atmosphere or whatever, but just this set lends itself incredibly well to the release event format. Unlike other sets that can feel a little disparate when you play, Chainsaw Man has an incredible number of combos and synergies across energy colors that when you throw them all together, it comes out to be a pretty fun gameplay experience. The amount of combos I was able to pull off in the release event format was also pretty incredible. I'll talk about some of them. By now, the release events are largely done, so it probably won't help too much how to win a release event. I've already written an article on that on my site. You may have read it, how to win your Chainsaw Man release event. This is less about that than it is about just looking at the implications of the Chainsaw Man release event, its success. I know in one of the tournaments I went to, there was people coming from hours away to come to the release event for a chance to get product at a reasonable price. Reasonable price is probably the number one reason people were there, but also to hopefully bag that winner card. And you might have noticed it from the picture, but I did actually manage to bag two Chainsaw Man winners. So I went 2 for 2 on Chainsaw Man winner cards from my release events. 16 players at both. Tough rounds, all of them. But maybe just how much fun I was having figuring out these different combos helped me bag both of these release event winners. And guess what? Let's go pull it up. Guess what? The release event winner is actually pretty pricey. It seems to be coming down. You can see people are selling it for a little less, but we do have confirmed sales data at quite high. The most recent ones being at 155, which is pretty crazy. So market price currently is 127. That's the average price that people are saying it's worth. You can see though the listings are going lower, so I would expect this. If there's all these listings on here and they're not being bought, this will probably continue to drop. But still, we've never had a release event winner debut at this high of a price tag. So that further backs up my theory that Chainsaw Man is actually the biggest set to date for Union Arena, which is fantastic, right? That Union Arena is still gaining traction. What are we on now? I think this is the second year, right? Second year anniversary. So Union Arena is still gaining traction after all this time. And when they put this kind of effort into their cards, I mean, look at this card. The Chainsaw Man, the movie. This feels like you went to go see this movie in theaters and you came home with this promo card. That's how it feels. It feels like you took a piece of this movie home with you getting this card. I had someone on X comment when I shared this, some data around this. I had someone on X comment that Chihiro is actually over 100 too, but Chihiro didn't start over 100. Chihiro started really low, actually, and then made its way up past 100 over time. This is the data. Let me see if I can find it. I don't see it anywhere. Oh, here it is. Yeah, you can see Chihiro started low and made its way high because that set was so popular and that manga is so popular, but it didn't start that high, right? So yeah, Chainsaw Man's huge. Prices are big. The other really cool thing was, just to tie this back in, the first thing I said was, you know, how much money do you expect to get from going to release event? I, again, expected not to make any money. I was expecting to spend money, right? I was also not expecting to win 2 release events or get 2 winner cards. That's not why I went to the release events. I just went to get some products like everybody else and have some fun playing the new cards. I think that's the way to approach these sorts of things. I would not, any event. I never go to events being like, I'm going to take down this event. I think the only time that maybe that's the case is when I was doing the Sword Art Online Volume 2 winner cards. I did get to the point where I was like, I'm going to take down this event because I really wanted to get the 4 Asuna winner cards for the Union Rare Battle, which I did get 4. So, but the crazy thing is I was doing the math and I think I came out with roughly over $1.5 thousand in value, card value from these release events. These 2 release events, one cost me $25, one cost me $30, and I came out with $1,500 at least in value. And it's not counting everything. That's really just counting SR value and above that I got. A lot of that value, though, I will say, a lot of that value did come from the Rize. I'm sorry, not the Rize. The Makima Double Star. I got this from my winnings from the second tournament. So they were actually handing out packs. I think the first tournament didn't hand out packs for winning. But the second tournament, we did pay a little extra. That's why. And they did hand out packs for winning. So we don't actually have a confirmed market data for this card. I'm putting it at around 1,000. So the reason for that is a couple of things. So we do know that the Rize, if we look at Rize, we do know that the Rize Triple Star already has a confirmed sale for 2,000. To me, that puts it in the same league as a Sung Jinu that sold for 2,000, has a market price of 2,000, and his Double Star goes for 1,000. And I'm thinking Makima will probably be similar to Rize, and so therefore her Double Star will be similar. So I'm putting her value at roughly 1,000. We'll see if that's true, but that's what I'm estimating right now. So 1.5K out of a release event weekend is not shabby at all. I also got things like, let's go ahead and look up the Bomb Devil. Of course, that deck's going to be crazy popular. I guess that this SR would be around 30, I think, and it does seem to be around there, a little short of that. But I did pull the Bomb Devil, the SR single star. See if I can find that on the X feed. I kind of took not the best picture of this, but I did pull the Bomb Devil. This was super fantastic in the tournament as well. But the Bomb Devil, gorgeous card, and of course people are going to want to use that. It actually was more valuable than I thought. I thought it might be a $50, $75 card, but right now it is trending at $100 on the secondary card market, which is pretty good. And then I did get the Makima, another Makima. It was a very Makima themed weekend. I also got a bunch of the raids for Makima, but I did get the Rare Star Makima, which is a pretty cool card. This one's worth $50. So just a really, really lucky and successful weekend. And I do think a couple of the interesting things from the release event, it was interesting to see the cards that were really powerful in the release event that you might not normally think of. For example, where is this guy? This guy's the MVP of the release event format, if I can find him. Kishibe, I think his name is Kishibe. This guy is the MVP of the release event format. Comes in active. You just have to hit 5 energy, which is easy to do in the release event format. Comes in active, and you can boost your characters. So this just makes the release event format different than a regular format where you're largely just trying to overwhelm your opponent, get more dominant BP characters in the field, and then just sort of systematically weaken your opponent that way for the most part. But you'd be surprised the kinds of combos that you can pull off in this particular format. For example, there was a turn I was playing against one of my opponents, all fantastic opponents, and thank you to my opponents for playing against me this release event weekend. But there was a turn where I was able to combo a Rize into a Boom into no, I lied. I was not this Rize. I'm sorry. It was this Rize, the 4-cost Rize, into a Boom, where I could take out an opponent's Aki. They had a 4,000 BP Aki, and then I think they also had a Denji, the 4,000 Denji, and then I was able to remove the Denji by fielding the Bomb Devil. This is really hard to do. The removal on the Bomb Devil is really hard to do in the release event format because it only works if you don't have a 4,000 BP character or higher in your sideline or on the field. The reason for that is to keep this from getting comboed with Makima. That's literally why it's here. It's like some decks have soft rails that keep you from combining decks, like Sword Art Online. It doesn't really work too well to combine the strategies of Yuna and Song, but decks like this one, Bomb Devil, this one they just basically just write it into the deck that you can't use Bomb Devil with other characters, other decks basically. It's how it's written in. It's not actually literally written that way, but it's essentially written that way. But I fielded this. This was crazy. So I fielded this, had to rate it over the 4-cost, which did kind of suck because like your 4-costs or your 4,000 BP characters are so valuable in this format. But was able to remove another 4,000 BP character. So I removed 2 4,000 BP characters in a single turn. And then I was able to recycle the impact. I managed to get both of a Makima raid out and both of my Makima raids out. So then I could effectively, this Makima, the 5-cost, makes it so all of your purple characters everywhere, hand, sideline, wherever, in all locations, they count as events. This Makima lets you bring back an event once per turn. So I could play the Bomb Devil, use the impact, sack my Bomb Devil, raid it again, bring it back with the Makima because it counts as an event, and then raid again and reuse the impact. So that was really kind of a crazy combo. This gives you an idea of like you would normally not care to do that in a normal standard Union Arena match, but in this format, stuff like that can be really crazy. Another really interesting one was when I comboed that same exact thing with the 4-cost Makima. Obviously, normally you can't run red and purple together, but this 4-cost Makima says you may replace 2 character cards or 1 event card from your hand to your sideline. But if you have this Makima out, any purple character can count as an event. So I was able to just recycle that as well. Another really powerful, crazy powerful combo was having this 3-cost Himeno out and then using that into the Future Devil and just using that to rapidly look through my cards was a huge advantage into this particular format. So those were some of the strongest plays. I think there's a lot of BP boosting is really strong in this format too. But I didn't want to get too into that because I know release events are largely winding down. If you want to learn more about that, check out the website. I'll link to it in the description because there is more about how to do the release event format. But those are largely winding down. But I think it just gives you an idea of just how exciting this set is. This is just a taste of how cool these decks are and how cool some of these combos are. Not only is Chainsaw Man one of the most popular sets to date, it's also one of the best all around from like an art standpoint, from a play standpoint, from like how fun it is to play, but also how strong it is. You just can't really go wrong with Chainsaw Man. So I encourage you to give this set a try. If you haven't, check out a release event near you if you haven't already. And until next time, keep on battling.